This afternoon, we are joined by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley after the huge economic reform step that his government has taken. Mr. Arun Jaitley, we welcome you on Times Now. Viewers have a lot of questions coming in. Of course, it was a surgical strike on black money that has been done by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and yourself as the Finance Minister. What is the real objective of such a move? Black money is something that's been on your target, but this overnight decision to take the decision to demonetize 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. Is there any international or domestic experience that actually motivated you to take this step?
Well, I don't think it was an overnight decision. It was a decision which was well considered, all implications thought of, taken well in advance. This can't be implemented overnight because you must have adequate replacement currency ready. And printing of that adequate replacement currency itself takes time. And therefore, the last few months that currency was being got ready. And even today, the full currency is not ready. It will take the next 2, 3, 4 weeks for the entire replacement currency to be available with all the banks in the branches. But the decision has to be kept in secrecy so that people don't get into hawala transactions and conversion of money. And this decision having been taken, the question was why do we need this decision? You need to expand your GDP. You can't have a parallel economy outside the GDP functioning. You need a cleaner GDP. You need your tax base to increase because parallel economy doesn't yield taxes. You need more transactions to get into the banking system. You need a change in the lifestyle of people as far as expenditure habits are concerned, because that can lead to corruption, that can lead to exaggerated inflation, that can lead to cash money being used for various crime purposes, etc. And therefore, not when an economy is evolving from a developing economy into a developed economy, you can't have 12% of India's GDP in shape of currency. Ideally, developed countries have only about 4%. And therefore, you have to squeeze the amount of currency available. And you need to get people into the habit of using digital, checks, plastic currency, and so on. And I think this is one step which has impacted on the life of every Indian. It will bring ethics, it will bring cleanliness. And it will in every sense help the economy.
But Mr. Jaitley, many say, and that's been some of the criticism that's come in from the common man, which is that India is not America. Not everybody is on check payments and plastic money in India.
If you see the way the Prime Minister and the government have acted, our first decision was the Janadhan. Only 58% of India was connected to the banks. We spent months together employing lakhs of banking correspondents, making sure that every Indian family has bank accounts. And today, almost everyone who wants has a bank account, unless somebody voluntarily opts out. And therefore, our financial inclusion is probably the largest program in the world today. You then gave people opportunity with regard to foreign monies lying illegally. You gave opportunities with regard to domestic monies which they have not disclosed. Ask them to disclose. You don't end with that. Now, anybody with some analytical skills should have analyzed. You've connected the whole country to the banks. You've given people an opportunity to clean up, both in terms of domestic and foreign monies, which is tax evaded monies. You've also held the threat of a tough anti-black money law with regard to foreign assets. You're prosecuting people. Then this step had to come. The logical step was India has to move towards a cashless society. Now, will India overnight become cashless? The answer is no. But this will be one very significant step where people have been shaken, people have realized, and I can tell you, bulk of India is welcoming it. It's those who have been the beneficiaries of this kind of a money who are saying, oh, people will be harassed. Well, a temporary harassment or a transient inconvenience for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then you move on to a much more cleaner system. Tell me which ethical decision that the government of India taken in the last 70 years where every Indian who's an honest man says, well, for the first time I have felt there is a premium on honesty. This is the first time in India that this is happening. And those who've accumulated bribe money, corruption money, those politicians, those political parties which may be having unaccounted money for the purposes of elections, inconvenience will be caused to the common man. This is a financial emergency. Asking people to deal in check and digital money and not in cash is a financial emergency. But this shows the kind of way some politicians in India had put its ethical logic upside down. I think Prime Minister Modi had a choice. Did he want to flitter away his tenure as Prime Minister like the last government did? Just clear routine files, take routine decisions and go away? Or do you make a difference to the life of a country? I think he's chosen the later course.
Are you surprised by the political criticism that has come in? TMC and the left parties on the same side calling it a draconian move. Well, Rahul Gandhi has said that the Prime Minister doesn't think twice before putting people into chaos. P. Chidambaram, your predecessor, has said, why bring back 500 and 2,000 rupee notes, and what is the logic behind taking out 500 and 1,000 rupee notes?
I am not surprised at the reaction of the Congress party. Congress party has never had a kind of dislike against corruption. In fact, they were mired in it when they were in power. And if I am to ask the Congress party and its spokespersons, you were in power for the last 10 years, name one step against black money that you took. Or if you can tell me, if you remember one step that the Congress party took against black money, you probably won't find anything. So they are now not in their role of a politician. Some of them have also become columnists. So they say when we were in power, we did nothing, but now we are columnists, so we'll comment on what you are doing. That's what the Congress politicians now seem to be suggesting. So it's very easy to comment and start hair splitting. But when you were in power and some of you got opportunity to be finance ministers 3 times, what were the steps against black money that you took? You can't recollect a single one. Now, to stretch the argument to say, oh, the farmers will be harassed. How will he be harassed? The farmer doesn't have to pay income tax. Whether he puts his money in a bank or keeps it outside, he doesn't have to pay. And money in bank in any case earns interest. Money in banks is more secure. But I am certainly disappointed at the Trinamool and the left. I expected a different level of ethics from them. And if India is trying to move away from a cash economy, the communists should not have been unhappy. So the communists want a free market society to deal only in cash. Well, this is news to me. This is not the history of the left that I understood it to be. And I would ideally have liked a politician like Mamata Banerjee also to be on the side of this battle against black money. After all, Nitish Kumar has taken that position. Naveen Patnaik has taken that very strong position. Some other opposition parties have taken a strong position against black money and have supported this move. I would have ideally expected Mamata Banerjee and the left to be on this side. But I am a little surprised that they've chosen to be on the other side.
Many say that the political reason for doing such a decision ahead of the UP elections is also because you wanted UP elections at least not to be undertaken under the shadow of money power.
I don't think this has anything to do with any elections. It has certainly something to do with cleansing up of politics. If this decision can make elections cheaper in India, I think it will be a great advantage to India.
So you're saying political funding also now will have to be only in checks
if out of the 17 lakh crores of cash moving around in India, 14 lakh crores in high denominational currency, a lot of it gets squeezed. Obviously, the velocity of money will suffer, the kind of transactions will suffer, its availability will suffer. And if corporates find it difficult and business people find it difficult to generate black money, having squeezed this and coupled with various other steps that the government are taking, I'm sure its impact will be felt in all areas. In land transactions it will be felt, while you buy gold it will be felt, while you buy bullion it will be felt, and when you donate to political parties it will be felt.
Mr. Jaitley, many question the fact that there are women who must have done their savings. There are, retired senior citizens who also may have some cash at home. Now, every transaction that you go to the bank will be noted by the tax man
No,
there.
I think
Is there going to be a police
As
state?
far as the small taxpayers are concerned, people who are within exempted limits, etc., there is a tax law. I'm sure no questions are going to be asked. Everybody is aware of the fact that there has been a practice where people, for various reasons of emergency or some need, keeps a little amount of cash at home. Now, if it's in moderate volumes, the tax people will also realize it, and I'm sure no questions are going to be asked. In any case, you have a tax exemption limit also in India, and that tax exemption limit is not being altered for the purposes of this law. But if you have large quantities, which is
Then you
much
better
more,
suffer.
then the tax laws will take its course also. So whereas the tax laws of exemption will favor the smaller people, I'm sure the same relaxation will not be available to people who have high denominational cash.
Mr. Jaitley, the other question that many ask is the question of, deposits with banks are going to increase. All the hidden cash is going to come out and it's going to go somewhere into the banking system. Now, with these increasing deposits with banks, are you expecting the lending activity and the business activity to take off proportionately?
I think in the long run, the banks will have more money to lend. That's a giveaway. But we'll still require to recapitalize the banks. That's a separate issue. In the long run, some demand will, in the short run, some demand may suffer because while the transition is on, people are looking to collect, the monies will transform from cash into the banking system. So during this transforming period, there will be some economic activity which may which may suffer in the short run. But in the medium and the long run, I think the alternate economic activity will pick up much faster.
Many say that if the deposits with the banks increase, interest rates, what will be the impact on those interest rates?
Well,
how does that impact a country which doesn't have a social security net? Are we being, through this move, creating a disincentive for savings in this country?
No, we are not. You see, savings ideally to make the cost of capital very expensive and then hinder growth is not the best way to do it. For pensioners, retired people, there are specific instruments. You have the pension funds, etc., which give you a lot better return. The national pension scheme itself gives a very attractive return, much more than what the banks give you. And therefore, we have to gradually persuade this section of people to go in for these specific pension schemes, rather than say, make the economy more sluggish, because I need a higher rate of interest, so the lending rate must also go up.
A common bystander on the road from a village in Moradabad, let's say, comes to Delhi for an operation. He may not have the legitimate means. He begs, borrows, collects some money for an operation. Medical care is expensive in India.
Indians have a great capacity for concocting logic to rationalize black money. Why can't this gentleman from Moradabad put this money in his bank and cut out a check? Why can't the hospital get into the habit of accepting a check? Now the Congress party has given an argument, oh, the wedding season is on, how do you give a shagun? Well, wedding is a very pure institution, so why do it in black money? Give it by check. So I think
what
the
about
mindset,
temples funds, all the temple
you see,
donations
these are all,
cash.
why should we deal in black money in the name of God? The temples must also learn, their managements must also learn to put monies in the banks. After all, those monies in the banks will be legitimately used for all the charitable activities that the temples do. You see, these are all logics being created. Oh, allow senior citizens cash transactions, allow women's cash transactions, allow farmers cash transactions, allow temples cash transactions. And these are all windows to be opened in order to allow transactions of black money. I don't think the government is going to oblige any of these arguments.
But Mr. Jaitley, as you said, the government had logically thought about these steps much in advance, because you started off with the Jan Dhan Yojana, you had the income declaration scheme. With GST, do you think the entire gamut of economic reforms is something that's up to your expectation and your liking?
I think it's going on quite well. It's going on quite well. But as I've always said, that there's no finishing line as far as reforms are concerned. Situations keep evolving and you'll have more and more steps.
Do you expect, did you get nervous yesterday because there was a 1,600 point fall in the Sensex?
No, I think
recovered mostly yesterday and today it's up. Did that cause any anxiety?
No, I don't think. I think Sensex has its own logic. The markets have their own logic, and we allow that logic to proceed. We don't get impacted in policy as far as that logic is concerned.
Any message to the common man on the street who may be facing in the short run some difficulty?
I think we are we have a control room working round the clock in the Finance Ministry. We are monitoring the activity at the banks. I think it's going on fairly satisfactorily. There are crowds, but the crowds are as per expectation. And I think the banks will be able to handle that situation. And therefore, there is no need to panic and on day one get on to the banks itself. You have a long period of time in order to exchange your money, deposit the money in the banks, and then keep transacting through checks, credit cards, or withdrawal of moderate amounts. And I think the banks will be able to adequately handle it.
And the last question, Mr. Jaitley, is about the taxman becoming the most powerful man in the system, really. Is that something that...
You see, as far as those with small savings are concerned, who will put them into the banks, they have nothing to worry. There is no tax liability on that. But if you have huge amounts of money, then the tax laws you can't be immune from them.
And what about the Vijay Mallya's and the Lalit Modis who have been away from the system?
Well, the very fact that they have to become fugitives itself is an evidence of the fact that the government is chasing them.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Jaitley. We appreciate your spending time with us and explaining to our viewers what really does it mean, this entire step, and how this is the biggest single economic reform that has been undertaken by the Narendra Modi government.